Rock history remembers the singers, the guitar heroes, the faces on the magazine covers. But behind every iconic riff, every unforgettable chorus, and every stadium-shaking anthem was a drummer who gave it life. Without them, the songs we worship would have been lifeless. Yet for most of these players, fame never came. Today, we're shining a light on 32 drummers who quietly shaped rock history. Some powered the biggest bands in the world. Others were session ghosts, laying down tracks you've heard 1,000 times without ever knowing their names. Together, they form the hidden backbone of rock's evolution. Carl Palmer. When progressive rock exploded in the 70s, Carl Palmer was at the front of the charge. With Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and later Asia, he fused classical discipline with raw rock fire. His massive drum kits weren't just for show. Palmer could fly across toms and cymbals with surgical precision, turning rhythm into a lead instrument. On epics like Tarkus and Karn Evil 9, his lightning-fast rolls and daring time signatures made the drums feel orchestral. While guitarists took solos and singers stole attention, Palmer proved that a drummer could be the centerpiece. Hal Blaine. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Hal Blaine was shaping an entirely different side of rock history. As the anchor of the legendary Wrecking Crew, Blaine drummed on thousands of recordings. Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys? That was Blaine. Mrs. Robinson by Simon and Garfunkel? Blaine again. His iconic drum break on Be My Baby became one of the most imitated in history. He had a gift for playing exactly what a song needed. Never too much, never too little. Millions knew the hits, but almost no one knew the man keeping them alive. Ringo Starr critics called him the Lucky Beatle, but Ringo Starr was far more than just the guy who happened to sit behind Lennon and McCartney. His style was deceptively simple. Laid-back grooves, unexpected accents, and tom-driven fills that perfectly matched the band's songwriting. Tracks like Come Together and Ticket to Ride showed his genius for understatement. Ringo never overplayed. He understood that the song came first, and that, ironically, is what made him great. Jim Keltner. Where Ringo brought personality to one band, Jim Keltner brought it to everyone. The ultimate session drummer, Keltner became the go-to stickman for rock royalty. He worked with Dylan, Clapton, Lennon, Harrison, even joining Ringo in the all-star band. Keltner didn't just play time. He added color, character, and subtle swing. His fingerprints are on hundreds of classic albums, but he rarely took credit. In many ways, he was the Zelig of rock drumming, always there, shaping the sound, but staying invisible. Roger Hawkins. In Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Roger Hawkins became the backbone of soul-infused rock. As the drummer for the Muscle Shoals rhythm section, he played on Respect by Aretha Franklin, Land of a Thousand Dances by Wilson Pickett, and countless others. His pocket was deep, unshakable, and perfectly human. Hawkins didn't just keep time, he made every groove breathe. Rock and soul blurred together in his hands, creating a sound that defined an era. Phil Rudd. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Phil Rudd was the definition of raw simplicity. As AC/DC's drummer through their golden years, Rudd's playing on High Voltage, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black was pure, unrelenting groove. No flashy fills, no double-kick fireworks, just a relentless stomp that made riffs hit harder than they had any right to. Guitarists Angus and Malcolm Young often stole the spotlight, but Rudd's consistency was the true engine of AC/DC's swing. Charlie Watts. In the middle of the Rolling Stones' chaos stood Charlie Watts, calm, reserved, and effortlessly cool. His jazz background gave even the dirtiest riffs a subtle swing, making tracks like Gimme Shelter and Start Me Up move with life. Watts avoided showmanship. He wasn't flashy, never soloed, and rarely broke expression on stage. But for nearly 6 decades, he was the glue that held the Stones together, anchoring their swagger with understated class. Jeff Porcaro. If Watts was about restraint, Jeff Porcaro was about elegance. As Toto's drummer, and a session giant for Steely Dan, Michael Jackson, and countless others, Porcaro had a touch that was instantly recognizable. His shuffle on Rosanna is studied by drummers to this day, blending ghost notes and swing into something hypnotic. His groove on Beat It gave Michael Jackson's rock experiment its bite. Porcaro could make the simplest beat unforgettable, proving that groove isn't about complexity, it's about feel. Levon Helm. Some drummers drive the beat. Levon Helm drove the story. As the drummer and vocalist of the band, Helm sang classics like The Waitin' Up on Cripple Creek while keeping impeccable time. His drumming was conversational, earthy, and soulful, reflecting his Arkansas roots. Balancing lead vocals and rhythm is nearly impossible, but Helm made it look effortless. His warmth behind the kit was the heartbeat of the band. Al Jackson Jr., nicknamed the Human Timekeeper, Al Jackson Jr. provided the rock-solid foundation for Booker T and the MGs, Otis Redding, and Albert King. On Born Under a Bad Sign and Respect, his drumming was tight and minimal, but locked so deep in the pocket it felt unshakable. Jackson understood the power of space. He left room for the music to breathe, a skill that made him one of the most trusted drummers in Memphis. Chester Thompson. Chester Thompson was fearless. Playing with Frank Zappa demanded it. Odd time signatures, sudden stops, constant shifts. Later, as Genesis's touring drummer, he provided the weight and energy needed to match Phil Collins. Thompson could swing from progressive intricacy to rock-solid power, sometimes in the same song. Night after night, he kept sprawling arrangements locked tight, proving that adaptability is its own form of brilliance. Ainsley Dunbar. Ainsley Dunbar might be one of rock's most versatile drummers. Bowie, Zappa, Journey, Whitesnake. The list goes on. His ability to adapt, balancing complex fills with steady grooves, made him a first-call player for decades. Dunbar had chops, but more importantly, he had taste. He could be flashy when needed, but never at the expense of the music. Mitch Mitchell. With Jimi Hendrix, Mitch Mitchell turned drumming into a second lead instrument. Drawing on jazz, he played with fire and improvisation, swirling around Hendrix's guitar rather than simply backing it. On Fire and Manic Depression, Mitchell's rapid snare rolls and cymbal crashes created controlled chaos. He was a perfect foil for Hendrix, unpredictable, alive, and always pushing boundaries. Richie Hayward. Little Feat's Richie Hayward had a groove all his own, loose, rolling, and funky. Blending New Orleans rhythms with rock, Hayward's touch on Dixie Chicken and Fat Man in the Bathtub gave the band their unique swagger. His drumming felt human and organic, never mechanical. He was admired by fellow drummers even if the wider public rarely recognized his name. Will Calhoun. In the late 80s, Will Calhoun exploded onto the scene with Living Colour. On tracks like Cult of Personality, his drumming fused hard rock power with jazz finesse and funk syncopation. He shifted effortlessly between aggressive riffs and complex arrangements, keeping the music grounded while still dazzling with precision. Calhoun proved that technical brilliance and deep groove could coexist. Nico McBrain. Joining Iron Maiden in 1982, Nico McBrain elevated the band's sound. His single bass drum gallops, played with jaw-dropping precision, became a defining part of Maiden's style. On epics like Rime of the Ancient Mariner, McBrain delivered relentless speed while keeping a swing that prevented the music from feeling robotic. He was proof that power and feel could exist in the same drummer. Matt Cameron. Before joining Pearl Jam, Matt Cameron anchored Soundgarden. His drumming on Jesus Christ Pose and Spoonman showcased his mastery of odd time signatures and shifting dynamics. Later, with Pearl Jam, he brought stability and creativity to their live sound. Cameron remains one of the rare drummers to shape the identity of two legendary bands. Mike Bordin Faith. No More's Mike Bordin gave alternative metal a unique rhythmic personality. His tom-heavy tribal style on Epic and Midlife Crisis was unlike anyone else's. Using a left-handed setup and a barrage of cymbals, Bordin created grooves that were atmospheric and aggressive at once. His influence extended even to Ozzy Osbourne, where his signature feel still came through. Cozy Powell Thunder. That's the word that defined Cozy Powell. From Rainbow to Whitesnake to his own solo career, Powell embodied rock spectacle. His drumming on Stargazer was explosive, commanding attention with double bass ferocity long before it was common. Powell also embraced showmanship, often performing solos with pyrotechnics. He wasn't just a drummer, he was an event, and his influence on heavy rock drumming is undeniable. Brian Downey Thin. Lizzie's Brian Downey combined power with swing, keeping the band's twin guitar attack grounded. On Jailbreak and The Boys Are Back in Town, his playing was muscular but never overwhelming, weaving tasteful fills into hard-hitting grooves. Downey's consistency was the unsung backbone of Thin Lizzy's success. John Wet Daddy Stewart Fishbone's music was chaos, ska, punk, funk, and rock all mashed together. Jon Stewart was the drummer who kept it from collapsing. On Sunless Saturday, his razor-sharp timing gave the band structure without taming their wild energy. Stewart was proof that discipline and madness could coexist in perfect balance. Clyde Stubblefield. Known as the funky drummer for James Brown, Clyde Stubblefield laid down the most sampled groove in history. His loose, behind-the-beat swagger gave Brown's band its hypnotic feel. That same beat later powered rock, hip-hop, and pop tracks across decades. Even if his name stayed obscure, his drumming became part of rock's DNA. Mike Shreve. At just 20 years old, Mike Shreve stole the show at Woodstock. His extended solo during Santana's Soul Sacrifice was raw fire, stamina, feel, and pure spiritual energy. Beyond Woodstock, Shreve blended Latin, jazz, and rock into a drumming voice uniquely his own. B.J. Wilson. With Procol Harum, B.J. Wilson brought a cinematic touch to rock drumming. On a whiter shade of pale, his delicate cymbals and surging toms gave the song orchestral drama. Wilson played with dynamics, moving from whispers to thunder, adding a sense of storytelling to every track. Corky Laing Mountain's Mississippi Queen wouldn't exist without Corky Laing's driving pulse. Heavy, relentless, and precise, Laing's drumming gave Mountain their power. On stage, he pushed the band forward with unstoppable energy, helping shape early hard rock. Vinnie Appice. When Black Sabbath needed a new heartbeat in the Heaven and Hell era, Vinnie Appice delivered. His drumming on Sabbath and Dio classics like Holy Diver was massive. Muscular toms, crushing kick, and perfect timing. Appice's weighty style defined 80s heavy metal rhythm. Carmine Appice. Before heavy rock drumming became a spectacle, Carmine Appice was setting the standard. With Vanilla Fudge, Cactus, and later Rod Stewart, Appice pioneered double bass work and arena-sized fills. His influence echoes in generations of metal drummers who came after him. Ian Paice. The only constant member of Deep Purple, Ian Paice powered classics like Smoke on the Water and Highway Star. Fast single strokes, crisp snare work, and jazz-infused swing made his style musical as well as heavy. Paice's drumming was the engine of Deep Purple's fire. Tommy Aldridge. Known for blistering double bass speed and explosive energy, Tommy Aldridge brought metal drumming into the spotlight. With Ozzy Osbourne and Whitesnake, he delivered ferocious live performances, often capped by solos played bare-handed. He turned drumming into spectacle without losing precision. Steve Gadd. Steve Gadd may not be a household name, but his groove has been heard worldwide. On Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, his inventive pattern became as iconic as the lyrics. Gadd balanced military precision with laid-back feel, making him one of the most respected drummers alive. Clem Burke Blondie demanded versatility, punk, disco, new wave, and Clem Burke delivered. On Heart of Glass and Dreaming, his stamina and inventive fills gave Blondie their rhythmic character. Live, he was a force of energy, pushing tempos and intensity without ever losing control. From the thunder of Cozy Powell to the subtlety of Steve Gadd, from Clyde Stubblefield's immortal funk beat to Carl Palmer's prog-rock symphonies, these drummers built the pulse of rock. They weren't always the stars. They didn't always get credit. But without them, the music we worship wouldn't exist. Rock history isn't just told by the faces on the album covers. It's written in rhythm by the hands that kept time in the shadows. So the next time a riff grabs you or a chorus gives you chills, remember, it's the drummer who made you move. Which of these legends do you think deserves to finally step into the spotlight? Drop your pick in the comments.